I was verbally assaulted this summer by my BIL and have decided to go low/no contact, and the whole family is going nuts because it's the holidays and we are family. This is a long story, and I'm sure I will leave some things out in the interest of condensing the story. That being said, I will elaborate in the comments if need be. I 35F Ali and my husband 42M James decided to go no/low contact with my husband's brother 45M Bob and his wife 36F Tammy. The reason I say no/low is because James and Bob work together at their family business with their dad, Frank, so for now we cannot go completely no contact. Bob and Tammy each have 2 kids from their first marriages. Bob's kids 21-18 have gone no contact with him. Tammy's kids live about 15-ish hours away and come stay during the summers. The summer of 2023 me and James and our kids, Bob and Tammy and her kids, and Mill and Phil, were at the beach. We did not go together, we just go the same beach, so we happened to be there at the same time. After we left, my kids started asking about suicide. We answered all of their questions and then asked them why they were asking. They said that Tammy's daughter was telling them about how she tried to commit suicide. James and I were both concerned about Tammy's daughter. We wanted to make sure that she was safe before she went back home for the school year. James talked to Bob about it and Bob said that the daughter was lying and didn't really try to do it. We were not sure at the time if she was lying or not, but we made sure that all 4 of her parents knew and we left it at that. We have since confirmed that, thankfully, she never attempted it. Fast forward to the beginning of May 2024, the subject of Tammy's kids came up and I told James that I wasn't really comfortable with our kids hanging out with them over the summer. Not only because of the suicide conversation, but also because of the content the daughter was putting on social media. This has never been an issue in the past because we don't hang out with Bob or Tammy, but they moved in right beside Mill Phil and Mill insists that our kids have to come over every week and play in her pool. If the kids don't go to her pool, she throws a fit. It is actually such a big deal that aunts and uncles bring it up to us on the regular. James was also not for the kids hanging out together, so he told me he would talk to Bob about it. And he did. He showed Bob the social media posts and Bob was taken aback by her posts. He didn't know anything about them. Bob also agreed that it would be better if the kids didn't hang out together. James and Bob agreed that if the kids wanted to see each other we could go out to dinner, that way they could spend time together, but the conversation could be monitored a little bit. June 2024, every year my Mill tries to plan my kid's birthday party and then invites me to it. See post from last year, she always wants to have a pool party for my youngest daughter because she is the only one with a summer birthday. This year was no different. I told her I didn't think it was a good idea because I didn't want to invite Tammy's kids and I didn't want their feelings or Tammy's feelings to be hurt because they weren't invited. Mill said that they are never there during the day, they go to work with Tammy, and that she would talk to Tammy about it and Tammy would understand. Spoiler alert. We had the party, 7 kids total, and all hell broke loose. That morning Tammy called Mill and asked if her daughter could hang out with Mill all day. Which she never does, the daughter doesn't even like Mill. I am assuming that Tammy knew the party was going to be that day and wanted her daughter to go. I don't know that for sure though. Mill told Tammy that daughter, 15, couldn't stay with her because it was my daughter's 8th birthday and she wasn't invited. It was a party only for younger kids. James told Mill if daughter needed to stay with her that day it was fine, we could do the party another day. Under any other circumstances I would have told her to just let her come, but I could tell that this was going to be just the beginning. If I let her come to my daughter's party at the pool, Mill would invite her every week when we were at the pool. Mill always tries to push any boundaries we set. I was trying to handle it the best way I knew how, knowing that no matter what I chose to do at that point James was going to be berated for it. Before the party texts and phone calls were going back and forth, everyone was upset. I get a call from James right before the party and he said that Bob came to work and tried to physically fight him. So I had to go to my daughter's birthday party with a smile on my face and pretend like none of this was happening. The birthday party ended. My daughter had a great time. I was angry. I was angry at BIL for constantly pressuring us about the pool and birthday parties. And that she assured me that there would be no drama because she would talk to Tammy. I was angry at Tammy for what I saw as overreacting. And I was extremely angry at Bob for trying to fight James. Bob did end up apologizing to James. But I was done. This is not the first time Bob tried to fight James or treated James like shit. He is always losing his temper at work, pulling things off of wall, breaking display cases, screaming at people. They even had an employee quit because Bob threatened to shoot him in the face. After that, things got more and more ridiculous. James, the kids, and I go to the beach every weekend, and sometime we would see Bob there. He never came over to talk to me, and I didn't talk to him. July 4, 2024, we were at the beach. James was playing in the water with the kids and I was reading a book. All of a sudden I heard someone yelling at me in an aggressive way. I looked up and it was Bob. He yelled, "You good? You good, Allie? You good?" His tone was so aggressive and odd I just said yeah. And he said good and drove off on his boat. I thought it was weird, so I told James about it. Later that night we went to Milphil's house to eat dinner and watch the fireworks. You can see them from their house. We finished eating and we were looking at family videos when daughter came up the stairs. I didn't even know she was there. I know now that she said she needed a Ziploc bag, got the bag and left. A little while later Bob comes banging in the house. He starts up the stairs saying, "We're going to say hi to the kids, is that all right? Is that all right? We're going to say hi to the kids. Is that all right? Is that all right? Is that all right?" No, that's not a typo. That's exactly how he said it. His voice was weird as well. I looked at James and he looked at Phil. I could tell by everyone's face that they all thought it was weird as well. When he got up the stairs, I was sitting on the couch with the two of my kids and Phil. Bob got right in front of me holding his daughter's arm and said, "You're going to get up right now and hug her." I was stunned. I didn't say anything. Then he said, "Get up right now and hug her." I was still shocked and just said, "No, you're not going to tell me what to do." And then he completely lost it. I think I need to stop here and say I am not a physically affectionate person. I have had some trauma in that area, so people touching me can be quite triggering. So I don't hug anyone. It isn't just the daughter that I wouldn't hug. And someone ordering me to hug someone else was too much for me. Anyways, he lost it after that. He started screaming in my face, calling me a low-life lying bitch, saying that I'm poisoning my kids against him just like his ex-wife did with his kids. I never said anything negative about Bob, Tammy, or her kids to my kids. I didn't feel it was any of their business, and saying that I was telling the whole family about daughter and her social media. I never told a soul except James. James only told Bob. We found out a couple weeks later that it was Tammy that told the whole family. James and Phil jumped up and took him downstairs out of the house. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't because Bob was by the door and my car. So I felt trapped. BIL said, "Yeah, Bob is upset because when you were at the beach earlier, he tried to talk to you and you held your book up in front of your face and ignored him. That is not what happened at all." Then daughter came back upstairs. Tammy started yelling up the stairs for daughter to come down, but daughter ignored her and stayed. Daughter started telling me that she would never do anything to hurt my kids and that she didn't tell them about suicide. She was talking to someone else and they overheard it. And that she didn't post anything on social media. I could go on there and look. There were no other people there that day when she told my kids about suicide. She was only talking to them. She did post things on social media, she had just deleted it. I had copies on my phone. From behind me I heard Tammy yelling, "You don't owe her an explanation. You don't have to tell her anything." Which is true. It's none of my business. I just didn't want daughter around my kids. Then Tammy started yelling at me about how I shelter my kids too much. Which is also true. I do shelter my kids. I am well aware of that. However, I am not taking any criticism of my parenting from a woman who abandoned her kids for a man she didn't even know. She continues on about how war is coming and my kids aren't going to be ready for war because I sheltered them. Then she starts saying I should have come to her and talked to her instead of going to everyone else. I didn't go to anyone else. I only talked to James about it. I tried to explain that James went to Bob because they are brothers. I probably said that 5 or 6 times. And then she screamed I'm his wife. I just looked at her shocked, because it came out of nowhere. Between that and the war comment, I was certain she had lost her mind. I guess she took my face as some kind of victory because she smiled at me like a crazy person. She started walking down the stairs yelling about how I was so ignorant. After she left, Mill thought that would be a great time to chime in with, "I don't like how they went about all this, but I don't agree with your parenting choices either." I said I don't give a shit. And walked away to find my oldest daughter. She had locked herself in the bathroom and was hysterical. We all went downstairs to try to watch the fireworks because I didn't want a kid's whole day to be ruined, but nobody wanted to be there anymore, so we watched a few and went home. I cannot put into words how terrifying that night was. I couldn't stop shaking the whole night. James made me tea and tried to calm me down, but I just couldn't calm down. I ended up not sleeping at all that night. I also had an autoimmune flare-up that took me 3 weeks to get under control. A month later, Bob apologized. It was an half-ass apology that included "We can't be acting like that, we're family." I don't know who he is, but it wasn't me. He was the one who did all of the screaming. I told my husband that I want nothing more to do with Bob and Tammy. He is 100% on my side about it whole thing. He has seen how I have went out of my way for them over the years. I brought them food when they were sick or had medical problems. Hell, I even stayed up all night to make their wedding cake because Bob didn't want to pay for one. Anyways, now it is the holidays and I need to stop being petty and holding grudges because we are family and family should be together for the holidays. Mill said that her family is a loving, forgiving family. And that just because I got my feelings got hurt doesn't mean I can just cut someone completely out of my life. We are going to be with family for the holidays. My side of the family. This will be the first Thanksgiving that I have spent with my side of the family in 14 years. Every other year we have spent it with James' side. James is excited to spend the holidays with my family. He doesn't like spending time with his family. He sees how toxic they are, but this is the first time we are putting our foot down and saying enough is enough. Edit. Bob had an accident when he was young and died. The DR brought him back, and so now anything he does that is bad is because of the accident. Anything he does that is good is because he is such a good person. Comments on which OP replied, "Commenter, how possible would it be to move away? Does your husband have a financial stake in the family business? Or, could he start his own business somewhere else? If moving is not an option, separate your lives from them as much as possible. No holidays, no pool visits, no phone calls or texts. OP, we can't move right now. James has a stake in the business and Bob wouldn't be able to buy him out, nor would he want to because James does all of the work and Bob doesn't want that responsibility. We are in the process of trying to come up with a new business plan so that he can get out from under their thumb. Right now James gets berated at work for any decision that we make about our kids that his mom doesn't like. He has even set up his office in the back of the building where there is not heat or AC just to get away from them. He told them that he won't be talking about any more family matters at work. Commenter, why is Bob still employed there if he's threatened to shoot people and was violent at the workplace? He should have been fired or at least told to get therapy and on an anger management program. His behavior was way over the norm, so it might be a mental health problem, but you do need to cut them out. Tell your MIL that you're sorry, but if they are invited, you aren't coming. Not Thanksgiving, you've already got other plans anyway, or Christmas or Friday. Tell her that your BIL and SAL have you concerned about your safety after all the blowing up. Hopefully, she knows what happened with all of it. Just tell her you're done. OP, he's still there because Phil owns the business. He will never fire him because of the accident. They say he can't get a job anywhere else. He can. He most definitely can live a normal life, but since they make excuses every time he does something wrong, he has lived a life with no consequences and his behavior is getting worse. Commenter, your FIL is opening up his business to lawsuits. That person who quit could sue and he could come back with a restraining order and a harassment suit on BIL. Since they won't do anything about it, y'all need to protect your family and maybe find a job elsewhere and move. Tell your FIL that you have to protect your kids and you can't be around BIL or SAL anymore, and you don't want your 10-year-old being told how to commit suicide by their cousin. It's not his accident, they both are nutters, and produced another one. Commenter, I feel bad for Tammy's daughter. Poor girl was already in a bad place and contemplating suicide, then was singled out and made into a pariah by adults. When you said she tried to explain herself to you, that broke my heart. 15-year-olds struggle with things, they have big emotions. You yourself said this girl was abandoned by her mother. Her struggling doesn't make her a bad kid, and I'm sure that's how she's been made to feel. Shame on all of the adults in this situation, this should have been handled so much differently. I sincerely hope daughter, as you call her, finds someone who cares and will listen and try to understand what she's going through. She clearly needs that right now. The adults should have tried to help her, not blatantly made her an other and made it known she was persona non grata within the family. I hope your children never struggle. Overprotective parenting will often blow up in your face. OP, the whole thing should have been handled differently. We have never had a relationship with daughter, we have only talked to her maybe 3 times in 6 years, not because we had anything against her but because we do not spend time with Tammy and Bob. Tammy and Bob didn't have to tell daughter anything at all about it. They could have gone about life the same way they always do and she wouldn't have known. We could have spent time together at dinner or any other place where there was an adult to monitor her conversation. We specifically didn't want them to be alone together. I understand that she was trying to explain herself, and in that most of what she said was a lie. I do feel bad for daughter. To that point I left out a lot of the story that had to do with her and only focused on the adults even though I didn't mention her name. It is not my business to talk about it. In this case the overprotective parenting was warranted. Every parent has to make tough calls, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't.